Very good to have you with us. Your leadership is not here. Does this have anything to do with what is happening in South Africa?
Well, the issue is not the domestic issue. There are a few elements in it. You have the elements of illegal trading of the drugs. You have the issue of some citizens in South Africa taking the law into their own hands. You have the issue of misunderstanding of why the foreign other Africans are in South Africa. There are a lot of misunderstanding. And this misunderstanding could have been avoided if we have followed what we started doing as a diplomatic corps in discussion with the South African government. The African Diplomatic Corps had established a commission comprised of the African ambassadors, ministers of international relations or cooperation, minister of police, minister of home affairs, so that we will avoid the reoccurrence of this kind of events that eventually end up to xenophobic attacks. But that commission, because of the changing government in South Africa, has not been meeting regularly to deal with those issues. Now that this issue is spreading across the borders of South Africa, I think it has to be discussed at different levels. First, local levels in the communities. The community leaders had to come to the scene to educate, to convince their citizens to stop this kind of violent attacks on the foreign nationals. When we're talking foreign nationals here, we're talking basically the other African citizens.
Okay, I know in the DRC you've had to fill a political vacuum at home, so I can imagine that it must be pretty difficult to focus on something like this. But from an international, continental level, I mean, what should be done?
No, at the continental level, you see, at the SADC level, we are SADC. DRC, South Africa belong to SADC. When issues like this happen in the SADC, we have a SADC organ on the politics and peace and security, and they call it a double troika, a troika and a double troika. Usually we call in a special meeting to deal with those issues. Now that the issue is spreading to become a continental one, the African Union also have an organ, a commission of peace and security, and I think that organ today must be involved so we can have a dialogue at the continental level so that the issues that we're dealing with can be put into rest.
Okay, but let me just jump in here. I mean, how confident are you of this being tackled? I mean, we have our politicians, they can't even say it is xenophobic violence. So it doesn't seem as though they've been able to own this, to get a grip on it.
There is a saying that where there is a will, there is a way. And I think at the continental level, there is a will to make sure that we as Africans are treated with dignity and so forth, regardless whether somebody is in the country legally or illegally, has to be treated with dignity. In Miami, a couple of months ago, we signed a free trade agreement. That means we are setting the path for Africans to move freely within their continent. We liberated our continent so that we can be free, so we can move and interact among ourselves. So there are few organs, especially at the level of the African Union, that can deal with the issue. And I will suggest that an urgent meeting of the organ of peace and security of the African Union be convened to deal with the issue, because the issue has spread across the borders of South Africa. Therefore, there is a need for that urgent meeting, because next year, you remember, the President Ramaphosa is going to be the President of the African Union. Therefore, South Africa cannot be going into that process with carrying these issues that we're experiencing today.
Yes, I mean, there's a call for South Africa not to be put in that position because of what's been happening. Ben Mpoko, thank you very much for your time.